Whoa, buddy. Put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
I have 2 guns, one for each of you.
Firearms Friday.
As Thomas Jefferson stated, it is the right and duty of the people to be at all times armed.
Say hello to my little friend.
I say that the Second Amendment is, in order of importance, the First Amendment. The right to keep and bear arms is the one right that allows rights to exist at all.
The Michael Dukes Show. The right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Firearms.
From my cold, dead hands.
Friday.
Here's my rifle, this is my gun, this is for fighting, this is for fun.
Firearms Friday.
Firearms Friday, your chance to sound off on issues of a 2A nature right here on the Michael Dukes Show. Good morning, my friends. Welcome back to the big radio program. It is our favorite day of the week where we get a chance to talk about issues related to guns and gun rights, the Second Amendment, and so much more. It is definitely a favorite time for us here around the old homestead, and we appreciate you guys being part of it. Little crispy out there this morning. Right on the verge of freezing here at the old homestead here in on top of the world in Homer, Alaska. 33 degrees here. Hopefully you guys are staying warm wherever you're at. But I was outside. I was outside grilling last night. We had some marinated chicken my wife had made, and I'm standing outside, and it's a beautiful, bright, sunny day. And I'm cold standing out there. I was wearing a t-shirt and a pair of shorts, and I'm like, this is not as warm as I anticipated when I looked outside and thought I could just, don't have to throw my sweater on or anything. I'll just, burr. It's gonna be a good one. All right, well, let's get into it for today. Firearms Friday, of course, is the weekly the day that we dedicate and discuss gun rights and stuff. And so we're going to be diving into that this morning. And I've also opened up the phone lines because, we love to have conversations with you. And it's, yesterday was great. Yesterday was a good opportunity to hang out and have some good convos with the listeners. And I enjoy that. So Friday is here just to answer your questions. And we started Firearms Friday, I don't know, years ago, because I got sick and tired of seeing the, I guess I would say misinformation, the misleading commentary from many of the talking heads that were out there on the television shows, and on the news media channels and everything else. They just couldn't get it right. And sometimes I think it was laziness. Sometimes I think it was malfeasance. Sometimes I think it's intentionally misleading people. But that was why we got started, because I wanted to try and help demystify the firearm for anybody who had questions about it. Because while Alaska is a very gun-friendly state, we still have some people here who weren't raised with guns, who may have just had some questions or whatever else. And I was, looking to try and find some of those people that maybe, that we could change hearts and minds, not necessarily on people who were vehemently anti-gun, but on people who at least had an open mind or were gun curious, right? And so that's kind of, where it all started and where we got kicking it off. And the idea that we would open up the phone lines and then try and answer any question that you may have about firearms came out of that, because ignorance is curable, stupidity is forever, right? We want to cure the ignorance. If you are ignorant about firearms, we want you to be able to get your questions answered. Not that I'm the end all be all. I mean, I know a lot, but my Google foo is strong, and we've got a lot of people who are listening, who are also in the chat room or on board with us in some way, that if I can't figure out an answer, somebody should be able to figure out an answer for you. And so that's what it's all about for Friday. And we're opening up those phone calls and just getting into it and getting ready to go. So that being said, 319-527-3864. 319-527-3864 if you would like to sound off and be part of it and have a conversation with us, to ask questions. There is no such thing as a dumb gun question. We could have answered it before. We just we just want to we just want to help demystify the firearm and everything else. Or if there's something in one of the news stories that we touch on today that catches your eye, then feel free to, or your ear in this case, catches your ear, then feel free to dial it up and let's get rocking and rolling on it. Okay. So today we're going to do that. And then we're going to be joined by Chris Cheng in hour 2. Top Shot, season 4 of the History Channel show Top Shot. He is the champion for season 4, also author of the book Shoot to Win, tips, tricks, tactics for learning gun training and for getting the basics down. And of course, he's also become a spokesperson for the National Shooting Sports Foundation, and a luminary in the gun world, Chris Cheng. And then we will finish up the program today with Willie Waffle with our weekend movie and entertainment review. So that's going to be it's going to be fun stuff. So tune in for that and let's get going. All right. So some of the latest headlines from around the state. Let's just I just accidentally closed something that I wasn't supposed to. Let's get into some of the latest headlines from around the country in regards to firearms news and and gun rights, et cetera, et cetera. I've got several sources that I use when we're doing the show and pulling information. keepandbeararms.com is one of the greatest. It's a function of the Second Amendment Foundation, and it's a great clearinghouse of stories from around the country. If you don't, somebody asked me the other day, where do you get your news? And so I'll just tell you, keepandbeararms.com. It's a great place to go because it's literally a clearinghouse of all the different stories on a daily basis, from firearms, general interest, gun rights in the legal action sense, self-defense news, news and commentary from anti-gunners, so you can have know what's going on, politicians and legislation, and then things that are happening on a state-by-state basis. That's a breakdown every day from keepandbeararms.com. So if you haven't gone out there and check it out, again, keepandbeararms.com. Also, firearmsnews.com, where my buddy David Kodria is a writer. Darwin Nersessian also over there at Firearms News, both of them writing some great stuff for the political aspect, and they also have some gear and gun and reviews and all kinds of stuff. But their Second Amendment news is pretty strong too, again from the firearmsnews.com. And then one of my favorite ones, of course, is Bearing Arms, Tom Knighton, Cam Edwards. They always have some very interesting stories over there at bearingarms.com. So that's, people say, where do you go? That's where I go. And that's where we get the information we got. So some of the headlines I want to hit on today. First and foremost, I saw this headline and I just had to chuckle because, of course, it did. Reddit deletes forums for gun accessories. Now, if you don't know what Reddit is, you're not missing much. You really aren't. I mean, what initially started out as kind of a great place where everybody could discuss their various and varied interests, and it could be kind of like a clearinghouse. I mean, it's kind of like a modern day bulletin board, BBS, right? The electronic, it was, clearinghouse. It was a place where people can hang out and, post. It was a forum, I guess, is what you're saying. But over the last 4 or 5 years, Reddit has just become this kind of inbred cesspool of just screaming, self-loathing. And I mean, there's very few. I visit Reddit occasionally for information on a game that I play, and that's pretty much about it these days. I was a part of the Alaska Politics Forum and of one of the firearms forums, but it has just gotten to be such a oof. It's now, arguably, Reddit is also one of those places that advocates for a tremendous, for free speech, right? They're all about free speech. I mean, there's some wild stuff on Reddit. If you dig down into what they call subreddits, which are the different topics inside of it, trust me, I've accidentally stumbled onto some crazy subreddits. They will post just about anything in there, except they are now removing subreddits that are dealing with buying and selling not firearms, but accessories like optics and parts and everything else. So they're all about free speech unless it's something that they apparently don't believe in or don't support or whatever. Reddit this week moved to shut down several large and popular buy, sell, trade subreddits revolving around gun accessories like optics and parts. The publicly traded forum-style social media platform, which has over 100 million users, is set to debut a new and enhanced rule concerning gun accessories on the 9th, which is yesterday. While the direct sale of controlled items such as guns and suppressors have always been banned on the site, the prohibition will be expanded to cover just about anything else gun-related. In short, communities will not be permitted to allow user-to-user transactions involving any firearm parts or enhancements. In the days leading up to the rule announcement, Reddit reached out to moderators on popular accessory subthreads to warn them that the sub would be banned moving forward. And thanks to everyone that participated in the sub, we're pretty bummed about this too, noted the mods of r/PRS accessories for sale. Others, like R Guns Accessories for Sale, which has 47,000 weekly visitors and has been around since 2018, said that they're taking their community off Reddit, moving to a new website being set up by the mods, and will keep operating on Discord for now. This is the thing that I really wanted to touch on, though, because you see, this is what's going to happen. As more pressure is put on things like the gun communities or other entities or other, rights, kind of exercising rights organizations, what's going to happen is they're not going to stop it. They're not going to be able to stop it. What they'll do is they'll just force it into another direction. And in some cases, they'll force the creation of new technologies to continue on with what they're doing. When you've got 50,000 people a week going to a bulletin board forum, essentially, and to look around for gun accessories for sale or whatever, and you feel the pressure from the Reddit organization or the Reddit community, well, yeah, if you can, because you can generate some money. If you're getting 50,000 visitors a week, you could start doing the math on that and realize, well, you could probably serve some ads to those people, yada, 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 and you could get something that would pay for itself. So yes, they're moving to a new website, or they're just going to operate it on Discord. If you've never used Discord, which is it's a voice app for for voice meetings and chat rooms and all kinds of stuff. It's used pretty heavily by the gaming community and by streamers and things like that. It would be very easy to set up certain things and have people, but this is what happens. They're going to continue to push out, and the technology is going to allow people just to continue. It's not going to slow people down. In fact, it might drive more people to look into our guns accessories for sale, r/, for that subreddit somewhere else. It's just, they can't, it reminds me, what's the old Serenity thing, the old Firefly thing? You can't stop the signal. You can't stop the signal. That this is what it's all about. Reddit is just showing the entire world how much they despise freedom, liberty, conversation, and guns in particular. But quite honestly, freedom and liberty and free speech, which they ostensibly are supposed to be champions of, but it's only speech that they agree with, they being the powers that be, the controllers of Reddit. Not free. And it's, honestly, it's the same thing on Facebook, right? It's the same thing from many of these big tech companies where they have banned the opportunity. That's why you've got Pepperbox TV now. I don't know if you've heard about Pepperbox TV. Pepperbox TV has been put, Brandon Herrera and his crew and a bunch of other gun tubers have gotten together, and they are not only are they're still on YouTube, but because they've received so many hits and demonetization and all the hassle that they get from YouTube, they went out and they're created their own streaming platform, Pepperbox TV, where they can talk about guns in the way that they've always talked about them up until the last 5 or 6 years, when they've started to be persecuted on their platforms and demonetized and have ads taken out and, do all these other kind of things. You can't stop the signal. And that's what these people are trying to do. That's what these organizations are trying to do. And you just can't stop it. So, Reddit is basically admitting that gun control doesn't work, or they're lashing out at anyone who owns a gun, or both. I mean, I would, at this point, having seen Reddit over the years, I would say that probably it's both. Gun accessories are Tom Knighton says gun accessories are useless without guns, and they aren't restricted by the federal government and aren't restricted at the state level. And yet Reddit decided that they are going to have to go after them. And what did they do? They created a whole new underground, quote unquote underground, for 50,000 visitors a week to go to that's not on their own site. Okay. I mean, makes sense to me. All right. We're going to continue here in just a moment. Don't go anywhere. The Michael Dukes Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. It is Firearms Friday. Yeehaw, my friends. My therapy session. Back with more right after this.
Running on 100% pure beard power. Oh, also some coffee. We dip our beard in coffee.
Ha, nice beard.
The Michael Dukes Show.
I don't know what's going on with my live stream today, but the live stream will not connect. It's up, it's running, it's supposed to be there, everything else going on. The live stream will not connect. Weird. All right, well, I guess there's no live stream today. We'll just make it. We'll just make it happen. Okay. My EDC has been completed now, says Anthony. Hellcat Pro has had its Apex trigger upgrade, threaded barrel, and compensator added, and a new Sig Romero RS. Hammering nails at 10 to 15 yards. Dang. How do you spell dumb? There's no dumb questions. How do you spell dumb? Yeah. Button heads. Can't fight the friction. You can't fight the friction. No, you can't fight the signal, baby. Can't fight the signal. Anthony says, Discord. I have heard of some questionable private sales of gun parts happening on certain Discord channels. Yeah. I mean, it Discord is, and of course, Discord has made the news lately because apparently Charlie Kirk's shooter was, on, but I mean, there's so many people, my kids are on Discord all the time with their friends across the country. So I use Discord quite frequently for my weekend stuff as well. There's actually a Discord channel for this show that I've just never released to you guys. I've just never done anything with it because most of you would have nothing to do with it. They just wouldn't have any interest in it. So I built it at one point because I was building out a bunch of different things and I just never did it. But yeah, Discord is some cool stuff. Anthony also says, I love Pepperbox. You can watch Uncensored Donut Operator there. Pepperbox is pretty wild. I love it. Yeah, I know. It's ironic that I'm talking about you can't stop the signal when my live stream wouldn't pick up this morning. I didn't notice it till about 2 minutes before the show, because usually I started about 15 minutes ahead of time and then just kind of let it run. So I clicked start and then I went on to work on other things this morning, and I didn't notice until just a couple minutes ahead of time that it wasn't running. And I'm like, what's going on? And by that time I didn't have time. Reddit is basically as close to getting schizophrenia at the same time as dementia from your computer. Yeah, that's kind of what you're kind of summating what's going on with Reddit. I mean, Reddit used to be kind of a cool place. It had all kinds of different, and it still does have all kinds of different. I mean, be careful. Do not turn off the safe search filters on Reddit. That's all I'm saying. Do not turn off this. If you have a faint heart, if you have a heart condition, do not turn off the, oof, man. Anyway, yeah, Discord is just an everything chat and VoIP platform. Yeah, it's very cool. So, but again, it's not, like I said, I set it up and I set up an initial thing and everything. And then I was like, what am I doing? This is not something that the listeners are going to be interested in. I spent about 2 hours working on a bunch of different stuff, an hour of which was probably setting up the Discord. And then I'm like, why am I setting up doesn't make any sense. And Frank's over here trolling me with deferred maintenance. You can't get me on that, Frank. It's Friday. It's Friday. It's all about firearms. All about firearms. When it's all said and done. All right. So anyway, it's good stuff. Let me log in over here so I can see all the stories that I. Don't forget to like and share, subscribe, ring the bell, do all the stuff on YouTube and Rumble and everywhere else. We'd love to hear what you guys have to say. Again, phone lines are open, 319-527-3864. Let's get back to it. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Let's go.
What the hell is an assault weapon? Does that mean that if we hurt your feelings, you should consider the Michael Dukes Show assault radio? Okay, we can accept that. Here's Michael Dukes. Kind of a dick, but somewhat funny.
Okay. Welcome back. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. It is ironic. I was just talking about you can't stop the signal. And then I realized that something has gone wrong with my the audio-only live stream on my website. It's not working. Apparently, somebody can stop the signal. But don't worry. You can still get it on Facebook and YouTube and Rumble. And, of course, later on the podcasts, no matter where you join us or when you join us, we appreciate you. You could be listening on the podcast later on, and that's okay. Not everybody has to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning to enjoy the program. Some of you are sane and rational and actually sleep in a little bit. So it's all good for you. We're continuing on our discussion of stories from around the country. We'll be joined a little bit later in the program by Chris Cheng, Top Shot Champion Season 4. And then, of course, Willie Waffle will be sliding in here at the end of the show. And we'll be covering all our weekend movie reviews and entertainment reports, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All right, let's get back to some of the headlines that kind of caught my eye. It's some interesting stuff that has been going on recently. Florida has just had a sweeping court ruling that made open carry the law of the land. Open carry, you can now officially legal to carry open carry in Florida. Now, there's some irony here because Florida was actually one of the first states, what was it, 25 years ago? 30 years ago, maybe? Florida was actually one of the first states to institute a statewide concealed carry program where, it wasn't, the constitutional carry was not even a glimmer on the horizon at that point. You had to go in and do what the state told you, et cetera, et cetera. But at the end of the day, you got a concealed carry permit. Florida was one of the first states that did it. But what they expressly prohibited was the open carry of firearms. That has now changed. And it also means that with the change in the new law, people are there's some things are changing for the public and for law enforcement. Because now law enforcement agencies are having to let people know that, because you'll get a call. There's a guy, he's got a gun. Okay, is he carrying it? Is it on his person? Is he, oh no, it's just on his hip. Okay, well, is he doing anything suspicious? No, he's just walking down the road, or he's just getting groceries, or he's just, okay, well, that's legal now, right? So it's causing a bit of a stir, and it's requiring some changes. According to CBS 12, which is a local affiliate down there in Florida, what would you do if someone walked past your home with a rifle on their back? That's a question that isn't hypothetical anymore in Florida. A sweeping court ruling made open carry the law of the land, forcing both families and deputies to think twice before reacting. Now, of course, this is a very hyperbolic response. What would you do if you saw someone walk past your home with a rifle on their back? Well, here in Alaska, we really wouldn't think too much about it. I mean, depending on the time of year and what kind of rifle it is, do we want to go talk to them about it and compare calibers? I mean, there's a lot of things that can change. But, I mean, again, this is kind of that clickbaity, let's paint the absolute worst case, weirdest scenario, not just some guy walking through a Walmart with a pistol on his hip buying groceries, which is probably the more likely scenario of what you'd see in most of these places. But what would you do if somebody walked past your home with a rifle on their back? Anyway, reactions in local neighborhoods are divided, according to CBS 12. Walking around with guns where you can see them openly is a little bit threatening to people in general, said Kim Alexander, a grandmother visiting her family in Stewart. Well, first of all, where's Kim visiting from? I mean, New York? I've got to know. I've just got to know. Walking around with guns where you can see them openly is a bit threatening. Do you feel that way about police officers and security guards and any other form of armed security? Do you feel a little bit threatened, Kim? Or is it just because they're not the only ones, right? That they're not one of the only ones that should have guns, right? Stewart residents Juliana Cohen told CBS 12 that she would call 911. Today you have a second thought, what if? So you call to be safe. Now, the sheriff admits that those 911 calls are inevitable. Sheriff John Budensyke said his deputies are retraining right now not to rush in, but to slow down and assess. Dispatchers are instructed to ask detailed questions. How is the person acting? Are they near a school? Are they doing something suspicious? Now, this leads to a whole different kettle of fish when we talk about things like swatting or, kind of the red flag thing or something like that, because there could be something as innocent as, again, somebody just walking down the road with their pistol on their hip, or I guess a rifle over their shoulder, if you want to, use the previous example or whatever, doing nothing but just transiting from one spot to another. But somebody sees it, feels threatened, and decides to embellish on the facts as they report it to law enforcement, right? That there's a possibility. I'm just saying there's a possibility there. That's part of the problem. But the dispatchers are instructed to ask those questions. How's the person acting? Are they near a school? According to the sheriff, for the most part, if we get a call of somebody open carrying, we're going to do nothing because they're doing nothing wrong. But if they're acting suspicious, getting close to a school, or doing something concerning, we'll investigate. He calls it a balancing act between respecting gun rights and protecting public safety, especially when children and families are nearby. Now, it's kind of how it needs to be. That's kind of how it should be, right? That's kind of what we're expecting. Generally speaking, people carrying firearms should not be a palpitating event, right? It shouldn't be something that freaks people out. But we have become so indoctrinated by the news media, by the entertainment industry, by movies and everything else to just assume that the second that we see something, if they're not wearing some form of uniform, that immediately we're all going to be in danger and we're all going to die. But I mean, that's not typically the case. And so it's good to see that there are law enforcement people out there who are looking and thinking about it and acting and actively retraining their people to deal with it. Now, there are some exceptions, obviously, to everything we just laid out. But then again, that's why you, as a concealed carry holder, need to be vigilant and paying attention and do what you need to do. Right? And quite honestly, this whole story that I've just read was kind of a setup for my next topic, which goes back again to the idea of open carry and why it has some problems and why it can be problematic. But before we get to that, let's go over to the phones. Ron's on the phone. Let's see what Ron has to say. Good morning, my friend. How are you? Can you hear me, Ron? Well, Ron's talking and something. Hold the line, Ron. I'm going to go to break because something else busted. It's Friday. Can you imagine? It's Friday. That's what's going on. I don't know exactly what happened, but we're going to get her figured out here and we're going to be back. Don't go anywhere. The Michael Dukes Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Firearms Friday continues. We'll be back with more in just a moment. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back right after this.
If you missed the show, you can listen to it on your time with Dukes On Demand. Oh, and it's free. Like America used to be. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay.
Welcome to the conferencing service.
I don't know what is going on here. It was working this morning. I just don't know what's happening. Let me go over here. I'm just checking out the audio, making sure everything's good. Yep, that's good. That's good. That's good over here. And let me, can you hear me? Can you hear me, Ron? Okay, I see Ron. It shows me when Ron's talking, but I can't hear Ron. I don't know what's going on. Ron, I'm going to apologize. I'm going to turn off the phones and turn them back on because sometimes that works, right? So, Ron, I'm going to turn this off and we will be back to you here in just a moment. And it should be up here in just a minute. So don't go anywhere. And yep, see, it didn't even say goodbye because normally it says goodbye. All right. Well, maybe I should have just stayed in bed today. Maybe that would have been a better plan. I don't know. Let's go over here. All you folks on the podcast who are listening later on are like, why is he just rambling on? Because it's easier than cutting all the blank spots out of the podcast later on. All right, here we go. Let's fire this back up. Thanks so much for calling the Michael Dukes Show. Hold on one second while we connect you to the show.
There is one other participant in the conference.
See, there we go. Let's see if we can get Ron. I see Ron he just stayed on board. So he's a smart guy. Let me do this.
All participants are muted.
Okay, there we go. Now let's see if we can pull Ron onto the air. Hello, Ron, are you there?
Yes, can you hear me now, Michael?
I can hear you now, man. I don't know. It's just one of those things.
The perils of entrepreneurship.
Yeah, no, exactly. The one man band, my friend. The one man band. All right, I'm gonna put you on hold. We're about 3 minutes from rejoining, and I want to take your call on the other side. So hold tight, hold fast, and we'll be back to you here. All right, let me scroll backwards. See what's going on. Okay, potholes and road maintenance, blah, 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 blah. Anthony says, I'm in a Discord that's entirely based on people loading their own ammo and suffering catastrophic gun failures. Oof. Yeah, that's it right there. Yeah, why not be part of the 6 o'clock club? Miss all the fun? I know. All right. CBS News, blah, 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 blah. I feel more threatened when driving on the highways of Alaska with people driving lights. Yeah, I know, really. It's like it's more dangerous to drive on the highway than it is to see people who carry a gun. Anthony said, I should care about open carry, but I generally feel like open carry is a bad idea from a tactical perspective. And honestly, most open carry folks fall into two camps. Old timers with a leather holster and a wheel gun that they could probably thread a needle with, or young people, man, thought ideology. You should not know that I've got 3 weapons platforms on my person, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, I mean, that's exactly it. MD Anthony then goes on to say, you ought to do a Firearms Friday on the gray man firearms philosophy. That would be an interesting discussion. We could talk about that for sure. Yeah, and another signal stopped, says Brian, because the phones wouldn't work. I don't know, man. It's ironic that I happen to think of that one turn of phrase, right? Let's see. Can't stop the signal. It feels like a full moon, doesn't it? Giving some thought as to, he was talking about it. Rick was saying he told Anthony that he was giving some thought as I was talking about it. Concealed, I think, is a better option. No one knows, keeps them guessing. And that actually is going to be leading into my next segment when we get done with Ron here, is going to lead into that, because that's part of the problem with all this stuff that's going on in Florida, and quite honestly in many other places, is that, the falls into two camps, like Anthony was saying, falling into two camps. Either an old timer with a wheel gun and a leather holster who could shoot the eyes out of a mosquito at 150 yards, or some young guy who's got, it wants to be tactical or is just being provocative to inspire some kind of political reaction. And we don't need either one of those. Well, I mean, I'd take the old man with a wheel gun any day, but we don't need any of the provocateurs. You know what I mean? The reason concealed works is because it's concealed and nobody knows about it. That's the big thing. All right. We're about to rejoin. Ron's on the line. Phone lines are open. Let's get to it.
What the hell's an assault weapon?
If we could just figure out how to get all of the murder guns and the attack guns and not keep selling those to people and just sell protection guns, I think that would be great and solve a lot of problems.
Does this mean that if we hurt your feelings, you'd consider the Michael Dukes Show assault radio? Okay, we can live with that. Here's Michael Dukes.
Okay, we're continuing on here. We got one line on hold. Yep, we got the phone lines fixed. They can't stop the signal. It was ironic that that's what I used when everything started breaking. Ron's on the phone from up in the interior. Ron, what's on your mind, my friend?
Okay, can you hear me? Michael?
Yep, we can hear you now.
Would you prefer I go off speaker?
No, you're fine. Go ahead.
Okay, two things here. The Reddit thing, I have frequented that website occasionally, and I generally find is that when it comes to gun issues, when I'm done, I'm either more confused or probably ill-advised than I was before I read it.
Yeah. No, there's no doubt about it. There's a lot of armchair gunsmiths and armchair lawyers in there who would tell you things that were, I would definitely not be getting a lot of my legal and practical advice from the pages of Reddit, if you know what I mean.
And then the other subject that you just briefly touched on was the effect of TV shows on people concealed carrying and that sort of thing. I see both live, or should I say in real time, and on TV, people using small of the back carry, which is absolutely insane.
Yeah, no, I mean, well, because it's sexy. It's if I watch one more cop show or action show or whatever, where the guy takes a gun and he just stuffs it into the back of his pants, no holster, no retention, no nothing. He just going to slip that 1911 into the back of his waistbands of his jeans with no belt, by the way, just going to slide it in there and let it roll. I mean, but that's how they treat it. Like it's just some kind of slick afterthought. There's no, again, it's fiction. I understand, but there's no realism to any of that stuff. You'd never see somebody just slip a loaded 45 loose into the back of their pants down their butt crack and hope that it's all going to be okay when you have to maybe vigorously do something like, I don't know, jog, run up a flight of stairs, roll around on the ground. I mean, it just makes no sense whatsoever, Ron.
Well, and I will open up a can of worms for other people to dive into, but I have the P320 9mm compact that has in excess of 5,000 rounds through it, and has never malfunctioned except for when my wife shoots it in limp wrists. So, and it hasn't shot either one of us yet.
Well, I mean, I guess based on the statistics, Ron, sound like you're lucky because there's a lot, I don't know. Maybe you should go buy a Lotto Alaska ticket, Ron, is what I'm saying. Is it sounds like you've been, because.
All right, I'll cut you loose and let somebody else get in. Have a great day.
All right. Thanks, Ron. I appreciate it. 319-527-3864, 319-527-3864. If you would like to sound off this morning, we'd love to hear what you have to say on this beautiful Firearms Friday. All right. So I did all that discussion on Florida and the concealed carry, the open carry rather, and everything else to bring us to this moment, because this is a perennial argument. If I ever want to start an argument on a Firearms Friday, which of course, we could start off with the, whole 9mm versus 45, but of course you'd be wrong because 45 is still obviously superior to 9mm. But I mean, we could start off with that argument, or we could start off with the whole open carry is a bad idea argument. Okay. Now, I feel like I really want to open up this can. And it's actually good news because I just looked through my messages from this morning, which I hadn't done yet. And Chris Cheng is over in Europe today, and he's doing research for his novel on the Purple Heart Brigade and everything. And he just told me he's not going to be able to make it today. And he sent this late last night when I was asleep, and I didn't notice it till this morning. So we won't be having any Chris Cheng today. So maybe this is a good time to open up this can of whoop. Maybe this is a good time to stir the pot and come up with the idea of, hey, open carry, generally speaking, is a bad idea. Change my mind. Right? Maybe that's what we should be doing right now, because that's truly what I believe. Open carry is, generally speaking, for the most part, not in every circumstance, but in probably 95% of the circumstances, is a bad idea. Change my mind. All right. I see that Fred from Rhode Island's on the line. Let's see what Fred has to say. Good morning, my friend. How are you?
Good morning, Michael. Great show.
Good.
Hey, the whole thing with the open carry, I think there's two parts to open carry. There's
okay.
Open carry in a suburban environment, and open carry in I'd say call it a wilderness environment. A wilderness environment, I think, is a good idea, especially up when you're part of the world where there's all kinds of things with teeth and claws that would love to have you for dinner.
Right.
I don't mean as a guest. And, in a suburban environment where the supermarket or Walmart or, somewhere else, we're walking the city streets, that's a whole different kettle of fish. In a wilderness environment, I think it's probably a wise thing.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, when I was a kid growing up and we went hunting and my dad and I went hunting, there were plenty of times when he and then later as I got older, we would, we'd come back from hunting, or we're driving back down from Circle Hot Springs or from some other else on the highway. And, we were wearing firearms because we were coming back from hunting out in the urban areas. But you're right. There's difference of walking around through the woods or on the back roads with a gun versus you're walking through your Starbucks line waiting for your caramel frappe macchiato with an AR-15 strapped on your back, right? I mean, they're just two different ideas.
I don't see any practical purpose of doing that, especially in the suburban environment. Because some people are going to get shook by it, understandably. So, they're not necessarily firearms enthusiasts like some of us are. But out of respect, not to do it. And like you mentioned before, you're setting yourself, if something bad is going to go down, you're going to be the first one. You're going to be the first one on the target list, because you are the most immediate threat to them.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah, conceal would definitely be the way to go there.
Yeah. No, and I totally agree. And I think, again, that's one of the things that people keep forgetting. Now, there are places where wearing a firearm as a political statement could, I could see it be an argument for gun rights in that you're making a political statement, but as an everyday thing, to me, it makes no sense. It makes no sense for you to, first of all, you're freaking out all the straight people, right? I mean, all the people who could potentially be your ally, you're freaking them out and you're making it very uncomfortable for them. And I'm not saying that we should always try and make people comfortable by not exercising our rights. I'm saying from a hearts and minds standpoint, probably better to ease them into it than to walk into them at a line at Starbucks and freak them out, right?
True, absolutely correct.
Yeah.
Well, as far as like being politically correct, I mean, there's a lot of give and take on most issues, and the firearms and the Second Amendment is definitely one of them. The thing, unfortunately, the other side has a my way or the highway attitude about the whole thing, and they're not going to budge.
Yeah.
They're just going to try to make life miserable for you and try to undermine the Second Amendment altogether, which is nothing more than the pretty little road to hell, because once the Second Amendment goes down, there's no stopping them and everything else. And that's exactly, I think that's the end game.
Right.
Trump has the right idea right now as far as like hunting down these people who are backing, the Antifa and all these other groups, the financial end of it, the shadow people who sit there and control and, instigate all these activities. And I think there's a lot to be said as to those who in the Second Amendment area who are doing the same thing, the Bloombergs, the Soroses, the people who want to finance the end of the Second Amendment, right? For obvious reasons, to make their takeover a hell of a lot easier,
right?
And that there's an armed resistance, and which is what the Second Amendment is put in place for.
Well,
to keep government in check.
That's what people don't.
I think they have to be called out on this. It should be an investigation. Drag this into investigation. Who's financing this crap?
Right.
Well, demand action.
You've seen some of these.
The big money behind
you've seen some of these groups.
Yeah,
you've seen some of these groups fall apart lately. Not as many ICE riots and many of these other things, because all of a sudden they started saying, "Hey, we're going to look into who's actually paying for this stuff. Where did all these signs come from? Where did all these like uniforms and helmets and stuff come from?" And now they're starting to ask questions. And you're right. I think that needs to be done. Hold the line, Fred. We got more coming up. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. All right, Fred. Sorry, we were coming up on the hard break there. I'll give you a final bite at the apple here, my friend. Anything else?
Well, that's basically it. I mean, like I said, we see it on the home front here with the nonsense and the misinformation. And, the more we get into it on this gun control issue and on the Rhode Island front, the whole thing it's just based on ignorance. It's based on malinformation, misinformation, a lot of garbage, a lot of nonsense, and some outside influence as to, the money aspect of it and the political aspect of it, support, financial support and otherwise, as to what's pushing it along. And I think that should be called out. I mean, that's something that's going to happen in this end of it. And I think throughout the country, people should look into it, the fact that they're being influenced by nonsense, they're being influenced by lies, they're being, the Pied Piper, follow them over the cliff, to the tune.
Right.
And, they're just being stupid about the whole thing and not really looking at it from all sides.
Well,
because they look at it from all sides, you're going to see how ridiculous it is.
Come on, Fred. People en masse are sheep. We know that. That's part of the problem. Individuals can be smart, but en masse, it's lemmings over a cliff, and that's what that was what was going on. All right, my friend. Thank you for coming on board. Appreciate you being part of it today.
All right, Michael. You have a good week. Take care now.
Yep. Thanks so much. 319-527-3864 is the phone number. If you want to sound off, now's the time to do it. We're going to do it. Brittany, thank you for telling me that. Apparently, I dropped back onto the local radio here, 45 seconds. I looked up and it looked like, why am I live already? Apparently, something ran out there when I wasn't, it's Friday. I don't even care. I don't even care. We'll figure it out. It's radio. Nobody's going to die. At least I didn't say something. I didn't use swear words while I was on the radio, right? Let's see. I'm going back up here to see. Anthony said, I've given up on TV producers and firearms. I just saw an episode of the second season of The Terminal List. Is that the wolf, the dark wolf or whatever it was? I really enjoyed The Terminal List, the first one. It was really good. Anyway, he said the main character was rocking a scar with an 8 to 24 LVPO, which is low visibility, low light VPO. It's a big scope. And he said it was mounted backwards. It's mounted backwards. Okay. Okay. I mean, how many times have we seen that, right? It was wasn't it the Navy that actually did a photo op on one of their boats where they actually had an ACOG? I think it was an ACOG that was mounted backwards on the rifle. Or was it the ACOG mounted backwards, or did they have the bullet? Did they have the magazine in? They had something backwards in the photo, and they published it. And they got raked over the coals over that. I mean, you just, it's unusual to experience competency in television and movies and everything like that. We'll see. Good morning. Let's see. I'm going through here. Oh, the government is shut down, so the FCC. So you could say bad words, says Melissa. You could say bad words. The government shut down, so is the FCC. So you could say bad words. Well, yeah, okay. Brian said it was the scope that was backwards. That's what I thought. Wasn't he? He had like an ACOG scope or something on there, and he had it flipped around backwards. Or, I mean, it's just like it's crazy, absolutely crazy. Or yeah, the bottomless magazines on television shows where the guy's got a pistol that a stock pistol of that type has 13 rounds, and he's over here blam 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 blam, 300 rounds later. Anthony said, yeah, you can always count on the Navy to ensure people questioning military spending. The Army respectfully requests that they stop doing PR pieces. The Marines do as well. That's all I could say. All right. Oh, is it really open carry if you're out in the weeds, though? Big difference between hiking through bear country and buying Cheetos at aisle 5 in Walmart. Yeah, I know, that's what I'm saying. That's, I'm not disagreeing with you there on that. I think there's definitely a difference. When we talk about doing Gray Man, Brian, thank you, Brian. He did the AI query. A gray man is someone who intentionally blends into their environment and avoids drawing attention to themselves, making them unnoticeable and forgettable to others. This personal security strategy involves adopting unremarkable clothing, behaviors, and actions to become essentially low visibility or low vis, reducing the risk of becoming a target in a potentially dangerous situation. We called that Casper Milquetoast when I was growing up, but it's a good idea. It's a good idea. Yeah, we should have a whole show on the whole gray man philosophy. That would be interesting. That would be interesting in and of itself. All right. Well, hour 2 is dead ahead. And so now we've lost Chris Cheng. We lost the phones once. The stream won't start. I mean, I'm ready for the day to be over. How about you? I'm ready for the weekend right now. I mean, you want to put it to a vote? I say we put it to a vote. Is the day over? Let's find out. Here we go. The Michael Duke Show. Common Sense Radio.
buddy, put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
I have 2 guns, one for each of you.
Firearms Friday.
As Thomas Jefferson stated, it is the right and duty of the people to be at all times armed.
Say hello to my little friend.
I say that the Second Amendment is, in order of importance, the First Amendment. The right to keep and bear arms is the one right that allows rights to exist at all.
The Michael Dukes Show. The right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Firearms.
From my cold, dead hands.
Friday.
This is my rifle, this is my gun, this is for fun, this is for fun.
Firearms Friday.
Firearms Friday, that one day a week where we get a chance to jump around and talk about our favorite subject, the Second Amendment, gun rights, tips, tricks, tactics, the whole schmear, everything that we want to talk about. That's what we do each and every Friday right here on the Michael Dukes Show. Thanks for coming in and joining us, my friends. It's just another beautiful day here in paradise, and we are ready to jump in. Remember, your phone calls reign supreme. So top of the mind today, got 2 phone calls on hold. So we're going to start off over there before I dive into it. Now, normally Chris Cheng would be joining us, but he's in Europe doing research for his new book. And so he just sent me a text this morning that he can't make it. And I didn't see it till just a little bit ago. So anyway, Chris Cheng's not going to be joining us this morning, but he will be soon. We will have Willie Waffle, though, in just a little bit. All right. Open lines, open gun forum. No such thing as a dumb gun question. Let's go over to the phones. Looks like Don is on the line. Let's make sure that that's correct. Good morning. Hello. Can you hear me, Donald? The phone stuff. There we go. What's up? What's up, Don?
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Go ahead.
Excellent. Not really a question or an argument. I'm more of a support of the concealed as compared to open carry. I'm a retired law enforcement officer from the state just recently, and I judge more when I see an open carry based on the holster that it's carried in than the fact that they're open carry. My entire career was uniformed patrol, so I've carried an open carry my entire adult life.
Right.
And probably the best example I remember in my life was seeing a young mother in a Walmart with 3 kids, 1 child in her arms, pushing a grocery cart, and she had a revolver in the small of her back, horizontal carry with no retention. Ooh. Now I 110% support her being armed, protect that family.
Yeah.
And I don't know what her skills were with the firearm, but anyone could have taken that unsecured firearm from her.
Yeah.
And so I think that's what a lot of people overlook is the securement of that firearm in an open carry.
No,
something that is secured, and hopefully they practice with it. But I have more trust with that person in an open carry and a secured type of holster than, like you were joking around earlier about, because people thinking they can just put it in their waistband as the movies do.
Yeah, no, that's
a point I want people to remember.
Well, I mean, I think that's a valid point, Don. I mean, I hadn't even thought of that, especially as law enforcement and having probably dealt with a lot of people over the years and seen this. Yeah, if you see somebody that's got a floppy $5 Uncle Mike's holster versus some kind of Kydex or leather retention holder with either a hook or a strap or, clamp retention or whatever. I mean, yeah, you'd have to start to think about, well, this person's probably maybe more serious about it. But again, when you go forth and you are armed openly where everyone can see it, you have to turn your situational awareness up to 11, right? I mean, as an officer with an exposed pistol, and I just happened to see a video 2 days ago about an officer who was attacked. Her gun was taken away from her, and she was shot with it. And I thought, because there were some things that didn't happen properly there was some escalation that happened that she should have basically gotten some space in there. But I mean, when you open carry like that, it's a whole different mindset, right?
Correct. And we spend a lot of time, or at least most law enforcement that I know, spend a lot of time in what we call weapon retention. If you're going to carry a gun, you're going to train how to retain it. Early statistics, and early in my career, before my career, there was a lot of statistics of officers getting their weapons taken away from them and used against them. And thankfully, law enforcement was waking up, and we were training against that. And you're correct. And that's what another part that the public needs to understand. If you're going to carry open carry, great, that's your right. But you're right, sir, their mindset needs to change. I now am telling the world that I am armed and I have to protect this, not just for you, but for myself as well.
Right. To protect it. I remember in Fairbanks, this is probably 15, 18 years ago, there was actually an incident down on South Cushman, which is not the greatest part of town. Somebody was standing at a 7-Eleven gas station, whatever the brand was at the time, and they were open carrying in a holster, like you were saying, with no retention, and somebody stepped up behind them and pulled their pistol out. Now, they didn't shoot anything. It got de-escalated, but all you could think of was, if somebody's crazy enough to reach over and grab the pistol out of somebody's waist holster, I mean, the next thing you know, now it's real tragedy. I mean, this is things you have to think about.
Yes. Yep. You're correct.
And I wouldn't want to be a law enforcement officer in a situation where an active shooter happens. I wouldn't want to be law enforcement, and I wouldn't want to be that person that's open carrying, because you guys know you're going to be the first targets.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. Even though I'm retired, I still carry, because I have that mindset and the skills, and I will help keep them and put them to use as long as I safely can.
Well, that's great. And that's what we need. And you know what? The idea behind concealed carry is that it is, number one, concealed, so that nobody knows. So it always puts that what if into the mind of bad actors. So they know they can walk into a room, and if there's 30 people in the room, how many people in here are carrying? Well, we don't know. That's what we want. We want that uncertainty that maybe prevents them from doing what they were going to do, because they're just uncertain. And I would like to see more of that. So, well, Don, thank you for your insight on this. I really appreciate it. Thanks for listening to Firearms Friday, and don't hesitate to call us back with more insightful stuff in the future. We appreciate you.
Thank you, and I thank you for your service as well.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much. Let's go over to Larry. He's on the phone. Good morning, Larry. What's on your mind, my friend?
Good morning, Michael. I kind of wholeheartedly agree with your opinion on that open carry. But anyway, about a couple of weeks from now, the 25th and 26th, we're going to have that gun show over at the Carlson Center.
Yep.
And, I haven't heard any advertisement on it or anything. I just thought I'd get on your program here. A lot of firearms users listen to your program, and so
sure.
Yeah. I just thought I'd throw my 2 cents worth in there. And
okay. Yeah, that's happening up in Fairbanks on the 25th and 26th at the Carlson Center. So just about 2.5 weeks or so. 2 weeks and a day.
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you, Larry. Appreciate you giving us the heads up on that. We appreciate you listening and sounding off this morning. 319-527-3864 is the phone number if you'd like to sound off this morning, or if you've got a commentary. I mean, I've taken this position over the years about open carry, and we've had some arguments on the air. There's been people who have called up and chewed me out for, oh, you said you're an absolutist and you what? And I am an absolutist. And I want to make it very clear. I'm not saying that people shouldn't have the ability to open carry. I think open carry, and in some cases and in some states, it's the only valid option. I understand that if you want to be law-abiding. But I also want you to use your noggin, okay? Again, for all the reasons that we just outlined and that I could regurgitate here, we could get back into, you have to ask yourself this question. I can open carry, but does it make sense from a strategic, tactical standpoint? Why am I open carrying versus concealed carrying? And especially in the state of Alaska. Now, we were talking about Florida, before, and part of the problem, of course, is that Florida, up until, I think they still don't have constitutional carry. There's still a permitting system. There are now 26, 27 states that allow constitutional carry, which, I mean, we're winning. But, there is an instance where in some places where you just can't carry. If you can't get a concealed carry permit, then open carry may be the only way you can do it. But here in the state of Alaska, what is the benefit to you of open carrying? I mean, in a state where you have the right, if you have the right to own the firearm, then you have the right to carry it. What is the benefit to open carry? If you're just doing it to make a political statement, okay. I mean, I don't know what your political statement is at that point, other than you're showing your free exercise of the Second Amendment. And I can understand, I mean, okay, there's a place for that, I guess. But again, from a strategic standpoint, from a safety standpoint, from a conservation of energy standpoint, and what I mean by that is what Don was just saying on his phone call, and what we were talking about is when you go forth armed in a visible way, in open carry way, your situational awareness has to be cranked to the max, right? It has to be up at 11 out of 10. Because even with retention systems on your holster, like, over the hammer snaps and retention straps and everything else, somebody could come up behind you. You don't have eyes in the back of your head, and there could be a struggle potentially for your firearm. Now, again, that probably may or may not happen, but we know that it has. We know that it has happened. And as he said, now officers work a lot. They spend a lot of work on weapon retention. And like I said, this video that I just watched, Maj Touré, I don't remember if you remember Maj Touré, the black man with a gun he was inner city youth who basically started a firearms foundation and does training and everything else. It was actually up on his YouTube, his Facebook. I don't know. Anyway, I follow Maj and he's been on the program several times, but he was reviewing this video, and it was an officer who was dealing with a man who was hostile and very argumentative, and she didn't follow her weapons retention training. She let him get way too close, and he grabs her firearm and is able to strip it from her and then shoots her point blank. And that's because, I know she's a police officer and yada, yada, yada. But again, this is the danger if you are broadcasting to people that you are carrying. I'm not saying you shouldn't be able to open carry. I'm not saying you shouldn't be able to. Don't hear what I'm not saying. Don't get it all twisted up because, well, I thought you said you were a second. I am, but I'm also for smart usage of the Second Amendment. I would rather have, I'm a huge advocate of, if you ever find yourself in a fair fight, you didn't plan well enough. Right? Think about that for a minute. If you ever find yourself in a fair fight, you didn't plan well enough. So I would rather have the advantage. I would rather have the element of surprise. I would rather have them think, oh, this, I've got the upper hand because I'm the bad guy and I'm armed and all these other sheeple are standing around, until all of a sudden they turn around and the sheepdog, me, has got his pistol out, aimed right at their head, And then they were like, whoa, I guess I should have planned. Yes, I will not fight fair. Giving myself every advantage to protect those around me and those I love is important to me. Having a pistol on my hip may make me feel better, may make a political statement, may do everything else, but it eliminates my ability to have the element of surprise and to maybe be able to operate from a position of strength. Anthony in the chat room, who's been very verbose this morning and had some great things to say, he basically said, I'm fine with open carry. When the shooting starts, I'll happily allow someone to draw fire while I reposition into an optimal angle. David said, it's the same reason that air marshals on airplanes are not wearing any identifiable clothing or badges. It's the same reason. Because again, the tactical element of surprise. Anthony said, open carry to me is like a peacock feathers. I see that person as puffing up their plumage in an attempt to intimidate, give themselves an appearance of preparedness. Speaking from my own personal observations, these people are not the ones you want in a foxhole if the lead starts flying. Again, I'm not saying that people shouldn't have the ability to open carry. I'm just asking the question, does it make sense to? That's my question. And as Don, the law enforcement officer who called in a few minutes ago, said, here's a mom in a local grocery store with 3 kids. I think they were all toddlers, he said, and she's carrying a pistol in the small of her back in the horizontal position with no retention. First of all, you got 3 kids. How's your situational awareness when you're dealing with 3 kids? Right? I mean, that it's a tough thing. And I know people don't necessarily always want to hear it. But again, if you acknowledge, if you were intellectually honest and you looked at it from a standpoint of a preparedness and being as ready as you can possibly be, and from a tactical standpoint, the element of surprise is paramount. So it's a good idea. There's a concealed carry class in the Homer area on October 25th and 26th, says Greg. All right, Greg, go ahead and post that up in there so we can have more info. All right, we've got to, we've got to go here. I'm a little bit over time, and I want to continue on. We'll take your calls on this. If you disagree with me, I'd love to hear what you have to say. 319-527-3864. If you think I'm out of line, tell me why. And no, I don't mean you, Harold, because Harold just says bear spray. Okay, I mean bear spray. You realize that's the two-edged sword, right? The bear spray, and that's the two-edged sword. It cuts both ways, right? All right, we're gonna continue here in just a moment. Don't go anywhere. The Michael Dukes Show, common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. We'll be back with more.
We're broadcasting live through a series of tubes.
Allowing all of these entities to provide streaming stuff going on the internet.
Well, it's kind of hard to explain. Sorry. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay, let me go backwards here, see whatever else I missed. You can always count on the Navy, blah, 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 blah. Your day, wait a second. Terry says, your day is not over, MD. I got up at 5:30 for this. Okay. All right, you win. Fine. But isn't it like one of those days? It's like, man, can I just want to be over? I've got so much stuff to do today. I've got like 4 meetings today, and I think I have to drive back up to Soldotna, and I'm just like, oh my gosh. Oh, anyway. Well, yeah. What is Gray Man? Wander through Fred's or Walmart, and it's all Carhartts, baseball hats, and beards, even with the men. Brian, you're killing me, man. That was oh man. Let's see. The Justice Department requested a list of FPC members because they're immune to certain legislations. FPC responded with an FU. Yeah, I know. That's why I love the Firearms Policy Coalition, man. Those guys are awesome. Okay, this guy brings up a valid point. How many of those open carry people actually have any kind of retention training whatsoever? Yeah. Yep. Bill says Kelly has a 10 millimeter SIG that she has in a Kydex chest holster. That holster is so retentive that it takes 2 hands to get the firearms out. If seconds count, this is a huge issue. She disagrees with me and thinks that the retention issue is better than easy extraction. I'm going to agree with you, Bill. If it takes 2 hands to get the firearms out, that's too much retention. You want me to prove her wrong? Just have her put the chest rig on and then hang her upside down. Does the pistol come out? No. If the pistol doesn't come out, then the retention is fine. It shouldn't take 2 hands to pull a pistol out of a holster. That's a little bit redonkulous. Okay. Let's see. The only thing I would open carry, the only time that I would open carry, says Corey, is when I'm out of my 4-wheeler in a hiking situation for self-protection. That makes sense. That makes total sense. Again, you're out and about in the wilderness. You don't have to carry concealed. I agree. That's when I would carry openly. Let's see. 3 kids. At the end of the day, you have to train religiously and have a plan of action if you're doing your duty as an armed citizen. Slapping a holster on your body and stuffing a gun in single mag does not mean you're prepared. I agree. Thoughts on shoulder rigs, says Brian. I mean, there's a time and a place for them, I think, but they are limiting to me in a lot of ways because you always have to have overwear. You always have to have a coat, They're easier if you do a lot of vehicle work and you're sitting in a vehicle and you want access to it. Yeah, I just, I haven't had a shoulder holster in years. I probably still have 1 or 2 somewhere in a tote somewhere of all the gear that I bought over the years, but I haven't used a shoulder holster in years, probably 30 years since I wore a shoulder holster. And I know there's some newer ones and everything else, but I don't know. I'm happy with, side carry, 4 o'clock side carry. I'm happy. Tuckable, concealable, belt rigs. I'm happy with that. So there you go. Let's see. Dummy here wants to know what FPC is. I'll tell you in just a minute.
What the hell's an assault weapon? What isn't? If I assault you with a penguin, doesn't that make it an assault weapon? Does this mean that if we hurt your feelings, you'd consider the Michael Dukes Show assault radio? Okay, we can live with that. Here's Michael Dukes.
Okay, we are continuing here. We just had somebody ask about the FPC, which is the Firearms Policy Coalition, which is one of the gun rights organizations out there that is doing some amazing stuff. The Justice Department requested a list of FPC members, Firearms Policy Coalition members, because the Firearms Policy Coalition is very good at litigating these things, and they have won so many cases against the Justice Department and members of the FPC, which is why you should become a member of the FPC, by the way, are immune to certain legislations, including forced reset triggers and some other things. So anyway, the Justice Department wanted a list of the FPC members, and the FPC said, well, F you is what they said. They basically, I mean, they are like a no holds barred kind of, sorry, not sorry, but you're not getting a list of our members. And so anyway, that was somebody was just asking about that in the chat room, and I was trying to answer these things anyway. All right, let's we're continuing on our discussion on firearms and open carry, concealed carry. Somebody asked about shoulder rigs, and whether shoulder holsters or rigs are still viable. I think that they can be viable. I think it's situational. It depends on, where you are working. Are you in and out of a vehicle? Are you sitting? I think vehicle work, I think a shoulder holster makes a lot of sense because you're not sitting on it all day long on your hip. And it's not there in the way. Of course, it depends on the size of the firearm and how the system is. There's actually like Kydex shoulder holsters now, which I think make a lot of sense in a lot of ways. And there's a variety. There's like the Elise rig that has no straps down to your belt. There's some pros and there's some cons. You always have to have a garment over the top of it. It can be used. It makes it's a good idea to try it out in variety of situations. But anyway, these are the kind of questions that we like to ask day in and day out around here on Firearms Friday. Let's go back to the phones, 319-527-3864. Good morning. It's Ron. Hello, Ron.
I hate to have to call you a second time, but all this talk about concealed carry and so forth brought up something that came up in a class of one of many that I've taken over the years. And one of the instructors said there are 3 rules to gunfighting: win, cheat, and never let the hammer fall on an empty chamber.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. Win, cheat, and that's exactly right. Nobody ever found themselves in a gunfight and said, well, wait, I brought way too much ammo for this, right? I mean, so never.
Well,
go ahead.
I've heard that the only time you can have too much ammo is if you're drowning or on fire.
Yeah, well, that's true. Well, and it always reminds me of the old Jeff Cooper adage of the only reason you should. How did he say it? He said the only reason you should be shooting your handgun is to fight your way back to the rifle that you never should have left behind in the first place, or something. It's
I believe that was Clint Smith.
No, Clint Smith. That's who it was. It wasn't Cooper. It was Clint Smith. But yeah, no.
But Cooper has so many that they confuse me at times.
I know. But that's a great one. Fight, cheat, or win. Fight, or what'd you say? Fight,
win, cheat.
Win, cheat, and never let the hammer fall on an empty chamber. That's I think that's good advice for anybody. But I'm going to cheat.
Right,
I'm going to cheat every opportunity I can. Thanks, Ron.
I'll leave you with it.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Thanks so much. I mean, he's no right. Again, I mean, I'm a huge fan and have been a huge fan of that, of that quote for so many years, that if you find yourself in a fair fight, you didn't plan well enough. That's where we're at right now. And fighting fair is for suckers. It's one of the other ones. Fighting fair is for suckers. Because if you find yourself in a life or death situation, you want every available advantage that you can get. And painting yourself with a target, it definitely lowers those advantages, doesn't it? So anyway, I knew that, and I wanted to talk about the well-regulated militia today, but I didn't get a chance to do that because the term well regulated. I had a whole thing built up, and then we got off on this whole tangent about open carry because of this story from Florida. But again, I'm glad we have the ability to open carry. I support your right to open carry. I just don't think it's very smart from a tactical, practical standpoint. It just is just not a good idea, man. Just not a good idea. But, maybe somebody will change my mind on that one day. I don't think so, but it's possible. All right. We got to go. Willie Waffle's going to be coming up next. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Okay. Let me do that there. There we go. Okay. Let me get caught up here in the chat room. Greg says, I find a shoulder rig is more comfortable and less stress on my hips. Yeah. No, I mean, I again agree. And especially if you've got other things going on, you've got tool belts or you got, works up or, sometimes a shoulder rig is much easier. Anthony says, depends on the gun too, with a shoulder holster. If you've got a big backed girl that's a little too thick, meaning you've got a big pistol, it makes the ribs sore because it's banging on the inside of your ribs all day. I could see that, and Bill's over here. I knew that if I put it that way, that he would just jump at he just took the bait, didn't he? Bill took the bait. Let's see. Mike Quinn over at Ulmer's in Homer makes a well-balanced setup for a shoulder rig, Kydex, and very comfortable. I'm going to go take a look at it. Farmers lost the Chinese market. If you're an Uber driver, a shoulder holster is optimal. You can reach under your arm and shoot through the seat, I suppose. Yeah, I mean, true. When I get a gun, I buy every holster I can for it. Kydex, hybrid, leather, chest, ankle, pocket, appendix, level 2. Woof, man. That's a lot. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So, and if every one of those holsters is $100 plus, you're into $1,000 in holsters. I mean, I could understand buying a couple holsters for every gun. Every time you buy a new gun, I could understand buying a couple holsters, but one for every pocket, appendix, carry, hybrid, leather, chest, ankle. That's a lot. It's a lot, man. You as well, nutter, says Sandra. I don't know what she means. Let's see. And if you were, yeah, that saying fits me. My pistol is always on me with 2 spare mags. I'm either holding ground or fighting my way back to the truck to get to my FBC or SBR, depending on the encounter. I hear you. That's exactly it right there. Point Blank Firearms, says Donna, shameless plug for Point Blank, makes custom Kydex inside the waistband, outside the waistband, chest rigs, and Kydex holsters for bags or purses. Love it. Brian says, a python in an ankle holster. I would love to see you run with a python in an ankle holster, do any kind of up the stairs kind of thing. Patrick says, just imagine the snowflake freak out if everyone open carried for one day. I mean, yeah, it would be you would freak out all the straight people for sure, but just for one day, I might support that idea for just one day, but it would have to be, nationwide, worldwide. Oh, that would be an interesting day, wouldn't it? That would be an interesting day for sure. All right. just got the buzz here just got the buzz for Willie. So, all right. Let's go over here. What was I? Oh, here we go. Is it Friday yet? Is it Friday yet? All right. Let's see. That's all good. Worthy investment, says Joel, when I ask him about all the different holsters. I mean, no, I'm not saying that it's not. I'm saying that's a lot. Like I said, I probably have 2 setups for all my pistols, 2 different setups, 2 different kinds of setups, usually leather and Kydex, but that's, yeah, it just seemed like that was a little overkill to get every option under the sun. But to each his own. I'm not going to complain about it. Not going to complain about you getting as many holsters. Why did open carry become unpopular? I don't think it is unpopular. I think it became frowned, as society grew up. That's the thing with society, right? Everybody becomes more and more complacent. I think it didn't become unpopular. It just kind of, maybe it fell out of style is what it should be. Not unpopular, but just kind of fell out of style. And now, of course, you've got a lot of folks who are offended and worried, and that's being fed by the news media about if you see somebody with a gun, then obviously something bad's about to happen, when that's probably not the truth. But all right, I gotta go. We're about to jump back into this Michael Duke show, common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. Let's do this thing. Here we go. Okay, the weekend. Man, I got a full... Why do I have to go to work today? Why do I have work to do after the show? Because, it should be the weekend right now. That's what I'm saying. Anytime I talk to Willie, I feel like it should just be the weekend now. Because you know what? He's already halfway through his day. Yeah, that's it. I hate it. I hate him. I hate this man. Oh, no. Hey, Willie, how you doing?
Go ahead and hate me, because you know what? The time difference, yes, gets my day done a little quicker than yours. But also, you were nice and comfortable and asleep in your toasty warm bed when I had to get up and take a shower. So, it goes both ways. Although, can I say, I am proposing right now, I am declaring my support for right now, the 4-day work week.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I think we can do it. Although we'll have to check your timing on that, because I get up every morning. My alarm goes off at 4:30 every morning. So,
oh, that's right.
Yeah,
that's right. I only end up like an hour ahead of you in that sense then.
Oh man.
Because I'm getting up around like 3:30 your time. Yeah.
Well, it's okay. It's okay.
Okay. You got me on that.
Not that
okay. I forgot.
No, we're not going to we won't play that game. It's all good. All right, well, let's get into the news. We got a lot of stuff to cover today. Let's start off. You got some Dolly Parton news, I heard.
Yes. So, last week we talked about, Dolly's canceling things left and right. She basically said, hey, I got health things going on. And, I'm just going to kind of cancel my Vegas residency. And I'm not going to show up to the Oscar ceremony in November where they're going to give me the honorary Oscar. And, then her sister spoke out. And this is where things got weird, people. So, her sister went on, I think it was Facebook. She said, "He stayed up all night praying for Mr. Dolly."
Oh, jeez.
And I want all of you to join in with me and pray for her safety and pray for her well-being. And everybody went, "Whoa, dude, that cannot be good." Well, Dolly had to respond,
Okay.
which is a reasonable thing to do when your sister makes it sound like you are, you're
dying.
you're basically booking your ticket to the pearly gates. Okay,
Right.
And And so Dolly made a video. She was making a commercial for like the Grand Ole Opry or something, and she said, "Hey, I gotta make this like video, and we're gonna put it out there on Instagram." And she starts off with, "Hey guys, I'm not ready to die yet," which that's awesome. That's the way you start.
That's so Dolly. That's so Dolly. Yeah.
So she said in the video that hey, she I gotta say though, she was very vague about what was going on. And she talked about a lot of the things that we've heard already. That after her husband passed away earlier this year, she let some things slide with her health. She hasn't been taking care of herself. That she really needs to kind of catch up. And there's things that she has to do. She has some treatments here and there that have to be done. And so she said she canceled a lot of stuff. And this is what got me a little worried. To be closer to home and closer to Vanderbilt Hospital where she's being treated.
Okay.
And so she's basically saying, I'm okay. Like she said, I'm not ready to die.
Right.
She said, I think God's not ready to take me yet. I think she literally said that. God's not ready to take me yet. But I got to take care of myself because if I don't, then I'm going to have bigger problems.
Right.
So what's going on? She's being very vague. She's not being very forthright.
Right.
But you know what? She doesn't owe that to anybody.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, she doesn't.
Know.
Yeah, we don't need to hear it, but it's good that she at least came out and maybe put that. Yeah, because you read that from her sister and you're like, oh my gosh, that's it. Dolly's gone, and so yeah. So
right.
Well, all right.
Oh,
so I guess we'll see what happens.
This is the crazy sister, right? Like,
yeah.
Am I the only one who's like, this must be the crazy sister who's been living off of Dolly's fame forever and like got really overly dramatic and launched the attention getting
right.
message.
Yeah, no, classic narcissism. That's I guess what it sounds like when it's all said and done.
Oh my gosh.
All right.
Yeah,
well, good.
This is your sister. She doesn't want everybody to know. Okay.
We'll see what happens. Good news for those of us who are huge fans. One of the most fascinating movies from the 90s was a film with Al Pacino, Robert De Niro, and Val Kilmer, and it was called Heat. And that movie was so. First of all, I love Michael Mann as a director, as a writer.
Yes.
The guy has written some of the Band of the Hand, some of the
he was
Miami Vice
was Mr.
stuff.
Miami Vice.
Yeah, no, I mean
he was the TV show Miami Vice. Yeah,
he's an amazing writer. He does some great stuff, and Heat was just amazing. And in fact, it's so realistic in some ways that the magazine reload scene, when they're doing the fight in the street. My understanding is at some special operations things at like Quantico and other places, they actually show that reload from the movie to say, this is your goal, because that is like one of the fastest, combat reloads you've ever seen, flipping the mag out of the AR or the M16. And I mean, it's like realistic, and it's a very intense, very great movie. And good or bad, there's going to be a sequel.
Yeah, I'm a little bit worried about that. I'm not going to lie. So it would be Heat 2. The sequel, as people who aren't familiar with Al Pacino is the hardened LA cop. Robert De Niro is the criminal, and Pacino wants to catch De Niro. De Niro wants to pull one more job and then just slip away into the night. And there's a lot more that goes on before and after all that. And yeah, I'm with you. It's one of my favorite movies. And what happened was a few years ago, Michael Mann wrote a book, basically a Heat sequel book, with co-writer Meg Gardner, and now he's been shopping the movie. And Warner Brothers kind of had first right, and they kind of have backed off. They agreed to let him go find somebody else, and Amazon MGM has picked it up, and they're very excited about this movie. They really, really want to do it. It would be a combination prequel and sequel. So the idea is that we're going to be learning kind of the origins of these characters that we saw in the movie, but then we're going to have the sequel. What happened after the big climax? I'm not going to give it away because, I don't do that. Okay. But what happened after that big climax? And not only is Amazon MGM very excited about it,
right,
but there is all sorts of rumors going around that there are some pretty big names that want to do this. Let me throw them out for you. Adam Driver, Austin Butler, Bradley Cooper, and Leonardo DiCaprio.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, that's some names. That's some names. If they had enough characters and could put all four of them in, that'll definitely make it an interesting flick. And like I said, I've really never seen a Michael Mann film that I didn't like. So
true,
pretty big deal. What kind of timing are we talking about?
They are so far away from having any kind of plan right now. I think it's hard to say. You got to get all these people to sign up. I don't think they've done any kind of pre-production. They basically just cut the deal. So how quickly will they fast track it? I think it would be hard with that list of names. That list. If you want any one of those guys, and DiCaprio's the hardest one to get. They have projects lined up for the next 2 years.
Right.
So
right.
you might be able to snag them now, and you might be making this in 2 years, and then you're going to see it in year 3 or year 4. So it'll take some time, unless there's a little bit of rearranging going on. So we'll see what happens.
Well, it's interesting because Heat has been quoted and not only as inspiration for other films, but actually for inspirations for actual bank robberies around the world.
I remember the big LA bank robbery that happened in '96 after this movie came out, and everybody's like, that is just like the movie. And it was. And I don't think they ever caught those guys either. I see. I over time, I think I've checked it out and read up on it, and I don't think they ever caught those guys. But if anybody remembers that robbery, it was shot. They basically pulled it off like they did in the May. They had all sorts of tactic gear on. They had the best imagine, and they were shooting up the streets in LA. I mean, it was really bad.
Well, I'd love to see it again. We'll have to wait and see where it goes from here. We'll keep our ear to the ground on that. All right, what do we got here? We got about 6 minutes, so we got time for one more news story. Pick your poison here.
All right, well, I tell you, I can sneak in 2. Here's the first one, and it's going to be quick. Ballard, the spinoff of Bosch, is getting a season 2 at Amazon. They haven't said when. They haven't said why. They've just said, we really like Maggie Q. We really like the show. We're bringing it back for season 2. Boom. That's one story.
Okay.
Here's story number 2. And I don't know how excited I am about this. Wordle is going to become a game show. Now, if you're familiar with Wordle, it's the New York Times puzzle game that they have. And Jimmy Fallon is going to produce it. He has, like I said, he's got a big production company with NBC, and he's going to produce it with a host being NBC's Savannah Guthrie. So we'll have to see if that develops. But, I have a feeling there's a lot of power behind making that happen. I would expect to see that in a year. I really would.
Well, you're the game show guy. I haven't watched a game show in 15 years, so you'll have to tell us how it is when it gets here. All right, that brings us over to the theaters, and I'm interested in all of these, actually. So give me the guide here. Hit me with it.
Let me start with The Woman in Cabin 10. This is our big Netflix movie. There's a ton. I'm just going to tell you right now, there's a ton of stuff streaming this week. There's a ton of stuff in the theaters. I just tried to pick the best smorgasbord for you.
Okay.
And The Woman in Cabin 10 is our Netflix entry, and it's Keira Knightley. She plays a journalist. She's been invited to ride on a super yacht that's owned by a billionaire. He's taking them, I think, off to Norway, and they're going to go to this big fundraiser because his wife, God rest her soul, is struggling with cancer, and they're going to a big fundraiser to try to fight cancer. And one night, Keira Knightley thinks she sees a woman's body in the water. She thinks she hears the splash when it got thrown off the boat, and she of course reports this, and everybody on the ship says, no, that's not what happened. everybody's accounted for. We know everybody. We've counted everybody. There's nobody missing. But did I mention she's a journalist?
Yeah.
So she's gonna start digging people, and listen, it's a decent thriller, okay? It's a decent mystery. What really happened? Who's behind it all? And they give you enough theories to keep you going, and they give you enough twists and turns to keep you going. And and Keira Knightley is a very good actress. I think watching her struggling with this investigation where everybody thinks that she has gone loco, I think is interesting to watch. I'm at 2.5 waffles for The Woman in Cabin 10.
All right, that takes us over to what? Roofman?
Yeah, let's talk about Roofman. The truth, based on the true story, which is more true than I had realized when I saw the movie. I was like, dude, that's like way. There's like, yeah, because let's face it, it sounds too much like a movie, right?
Right,
You got
right.
Channing Tatum. He plays this army vet who turns to a life of crime. He becomes famous for breaking into stores and mostly McDonald's by cutting through the roof. He finds that there's a weakness there, right? And he cuts into the roof. He drops down in. He has all the employees go into the freezer while they empty the safe, and he takes the money and runs away. And he was successful about 42 times doing this.
Wow.
He became notorious. And unfortunately, fortunately for law, unfortunately for him, he gets caught. He goes to jail, and he escapes from jail. And the story is he ends up living in a Toys R Us. He finds little hiding spaces, and he monitors the staff. And of course, he falls in love with Kirsten Dunst, one of the employees. And well, eventually, will the past come a calling? Well, yeah, because he's an escaped convict, and every cop in the town is looking for him, and he hasn't left town yet.
Oh man.
Yeah,
I've seen some of the trailers, and it just looks hysterical. So it's a comedy, but it's a true to life.
I'm at like 2.5 waffles. It's not as much of a comedy as I think the trailers portray it to be. I think it tries to get really into the love story. Look at what he's doing for his family. Look at how he has this new life. Look at all the things he's destined to lose. You don't win this game, okay?
Right.
You don't get away, and so it gets wrapped up in that emotional side, that emotional impact. Where I'm with you, I think the comedy was a little bit better. But I'm at 2.5 waffles. I think it's an interesting movie. You like Channing Tatum, but you can't get past the fact that, dude, you're a criminal. Like, I can't root for you to succeed here. I'm sorry.
It's hard, isn't it? All right. Well, we got about a minute, so give me a brief synopsis of Tron: Ares, the sequel to the sequel to the sequel. Give it to me.
So basically, it's a battle between two tech CEOs. One is realistic and evil and wants to create a super soldier, played by Jared Leto, who's from artificial intelligence. And there's this secret code out there where you can take what you create, kind of like in the artificial intelligence world, and make it last forever. And so he's trying to find it. And so is the good CEO, the woman who wants to use this AI to solve world hunger and homelessness and all sorts of things CEOs would never do. And do you think maybe Jared Leto's going to go rogue? Yeah,
No.
That's where it gets crazy, people. And listen, I think that the script may have been put together with AI. Okay, it's very sophomoric, it's not very deep, but the visuals are so cool, and the action is so cool. I'm at 3 waffles. I actually am going to say that it is a lot better than you might anticipate.
Okay, well, I enjoyed the original Tron. I enjoyed the sequel. And I guarantee you I'll probably enjoy this one as well. So can't wait to watch it. 3 waffles for Tron: Ares. Willie Waffle, wafflemovies.com. We're out of time. We're running over. We will see you guys on Monday. Have a great weekend. Okay. Now, do you remember the sequel, the first, the remake, the reboot?
I remember the reboot, and I remember I didn't like it very much, and that's all I really remember.
That's weird. That's weird.
But I mean, let's face it. I mean, the original Tron is legendary. I don't think that's overstating it.
So groundbreaking.
It was extremely groundbreaking. I think it was like one of the first movies that really used computer-generated graphics the way it did. It had the video game angle at a time when video games were hot and new and cool. And so, Tron is, for men of our age, right? We were teenagers. We were like, this is the coolest movie ever.
Right. No, it was super cool. I enjoyed the sequel because, again, you got to revisit some old characters and see some stuff. And it was, of course, graphically pleasing and an update. But I mean, it wasn't groundbreaking like Tron was. It's hard to capture that lightning in a bottle again. But I'm looking forward to revisiting that world again.
Oh yeah, and I think what makes this movie better than I do believe it's better than the sequel, the one that came out. What was it, 2012? I think it was. I think it's better than that one because I think the movie making is better. I mean, I think the visuals blew me away. I love the chase scenes. I love the awesome pounding score from 9 Inch Nails, right?
Right.
And just that bass line that just keeps pumping and keeps the action going for you. I mean, yeah. The plot is predictable. I mean, I think we know what's gonna happen, right? But I'm willing to forgive a lot of the obvious flaws because I think you have so much fun with the rest of the movie that it's worth it.
Okay. All right. I like it. And that's in theaters right now.
In theaters right now, and let's see if we put our timer on. It'll probably be streaming in about 6 weeks.
Okay.
And let's see here. I think isn't this Disney? So it'll be on Disney Plus about 8 weeks. Yeah, maybe in time for Christmas. I'm just throwing that out there. Just throwing it out there.
So what you're saying is I can save myself a trip to the theater and just wait for it to come home. So
listen, I think it's worth seeing in the theater because the visuals are so cool.
Yeah. No, I could see that for sure. Absolutely. All right. What are we doing next week? Quickly.
How about Black Phone 2?
Oh, the first one was really good.
The first one was really awesome.
Really good. Really good. All right, Willie, thank you so much. Folks, we are out of time. We will see you guys on Monday. Be kind, love one another, live well. We'll see you then.
We've shed our terrestrial radio skin, and now we are slimy lizard internet people. It's the Michael Dukes Show.